Hi guys, this week in kindergarten we're going to be learning more about how to tell time. Now I know you might have seen clocks before, right? Or you might have seen digital clocks like looking on your microwave or your oven. This kind of a clock though that we're going to talk about is called an analog clock. An analog clock is different because it has hands, it has a clock face, it has numbers, but we read them differently, okay? So digital time you might have seen to look like this. So if you have ever seen this kind of a clock before digital, you're going to see a number, 2 dots, and then numbers after those dots. That's called digital time. This would read 7 o'clock. But if we're reading that time to the hour and saying that it is 7 o'clock on an analog clock, then we have to learn the parts of the clock to discover what that time is on this kind of clock. So let's review and talk about these parts. When you talk about the clock face, boys and girls, you're going to see the numbers 1 all the way up to 12, okay? You're also going to see 2 hands, and we're going to talk about them. The shorter hand is the hour hand, and the longer hand is the minute hand. So look at these parts again with me. The blue arrow, the blue hand, is the hour hand, and the purple hand is called the minute hand, okay? So before we start to tell time a little bit, I want you to think about times of the day that you already know. You know that there's a morning, there's an afternoon, and there's also a night. So I want you to think about this week. You could divide this little piece of paper up at home into thirds. And what you're going to do is write these 3 words: morning, afternoon, and night. So let's briefly think, what are some things that you could do in the morning? I'm sure there's lots that you guys do. Something that Mrs. Cloud drew were some weights, a mat, and a bottle of water, because in the morning, I really like to get up and start my day by praying first and exercising. I love to do that. So that's something that I enjoy in the morning. In the afternoon, which would be midday, right? It's not morning or night, it's the afternoon, it's the middle of the day. What's something you like to do in the afternoon? I, boys and girls, drew a book and a cup of tea because in the afternoon, when I get done my work, I like to read and I also enjoy a cup of tea. And at nighttime, boys and girls, I drew a television and my family on the couch because we enjoy watching TV together at nights before we go to bed. So those are the times of day that you already know: morning, afternoon, and night. So if you could just do this simple activity and draw something that you like to do, and then after that, come on back and we're going to be able to talk about this clock more, all right? So remember that time that we gave you in the beginning, the digital time, 7 o'clock, all right? So now we're going to show it on our analog clock. Whenever we talk about the hour, remember, we're talking about this blue hand. The blue hand tells the hour. So all I'm going to simply do is move that hand and point it to the 7, okay? The minute hand, I'm going to always, when I talk about the hour, it's always going to be on the 12, okay? Because this is going to be the O clock, okay? That's going to be right here. So it reads 7 o'clock, which is the same thing as this in digital time, but we read it like this on an analog clock. So the hour hand, which is the shorter hand, tells the hour. That points to 7. The minute hand, which is the longer hand, will always be on the 12 when we want to read it to the hour. So this reads 7 o'clock. Awesome. And boys and girls, you're going to get a scanned little paper, and all you're going to simply need is a little paper plate, some glue. I would like it if you could color the hour and the minute hand just to distinguish them and identify them. And I also just colored in my numbers. And if mommy or daddy have a little push pin, they can help push those arrows into the clock so that you can move them around. All right, but just be careful because the pin that I use is kind of sticky, so I don't want to really reach for the back of it. So be careful if you are using a push pin. You could also simply just use some tape and just move your arrows around in place like that as well. All right, let's do a few more. Let's see, what if I pointed my blue arrow to the 11? And what if I moved my taller or bigger arrow to the 12? Would you know what time that reads on my analog clock? Whoop. And the arrows are a little bit flimsy, guys, so it's okay to hold them in place. I'm going to try to do that for you. So the hour is the blue hand, that's reading 11. The minute hand is on the 12, which reads o'clock. So this time reads 11 o'clock, okay? So it would look something like this, okay, on your digital time if you've seen this on the microwave or on your oven or even on your watch you might see it look like this, 11 o'clock. Like this, but we read it like this on an analog clock, 11 o'clock. Now, you might also see things like this, AM and PM, okay? Because time can be in those times. AM, boys and girls, means the morning, and PM means afternoon and night. So if you're talking about 11 o'clock AM, okay, that's about an hour before the afternoon, before lunch. So you might be doing schoolwork still at 11 a.m. You might be riding a bike outside if it's nice. You might be helping mommy or daddy do a chore at 11 o'clock in the morning, right? But at 11 o'clock p.m., that means we're talking about the nighttime. What are you usually doing at 11 o'clock p.m.? Hopefully you're sleeping, right? Hopefully you're in bed and snug and already snoozing and dreaming at 11 o'clock at night, which would be PM. Okay, let's do one more. And remember, we're talking about the O clock. We're talking about time to the hour today. So that minute hand, that longer hand is always going to be on the 12, and that hour hand is what's going to change to read that hour, okay? So what if I said this time? See if you could help me. All right, so look at that hour hand first. Look at where that's pointing. That's pointing to the number 5. So that hour would be 5. This minute hand, right, the longer hand is pointing to the 12. So what does the 12 mean again? Did you remember? It means o'clock. We're telling time by the hour. So when we read this, we always read that hour hand first. 5 o'clock. Awesome. So it would look something like this. If you saw it digitally, it would look like this, 5 o'clock, but we read it on the analog clock like this, 5 o'clock. And remember, AM and PM, we've also discussed a little bit. AM would mean morning, PM would mean afternoon or nighttime. So let's talk about 5 o'clock AM, 5 o'clock in the morning. Are you guys up that early? My kids usually aren't. Sometimes Mrs. Cloud gets up early to start a chore before work, like laundry. Sometimes I have to walk my dog that early in the morning. I'm up sometimes. I wouldn't say all the time, but by 5 o'clock, I could be up starting my day. How about 5 o'clock p.m., which means that's the afternoon, 5 o'clock p.m. Well, I'm usually getting started on making dinner, right? Or maybe during the school year, my kids would be coming home. I would still be helping them with homework. I might be taking them to dance or baseball or a practice, right, of some sort. So usually at 5 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon, we're doing those kinds of activities. Great job today, guys. Remember, all you need to do to simply build this clock is to get yourself some glue stick or tape, scissors, and go ahead and get a paper plate. And if you have a little push pin, that will help you try to learn the parts of the clock. Remember that blue hand, that shorter hand tells the hour. That longer hand, which I colored purple here, tells the minute. Have fun playing around with your clock, and please keep practicing. See you soon.